So we have our rows looking good. They are working fine. Now it's time for us to learn how to then attach event listeners to each row, or if we want to each item inside of the row, right? So the same idea, the same concept we had before when we talk about buttons and how to set them to receive clicks and respond to those, we can do the same thing because after all, we talk about views here. So the best way to do this, there's different ways to do so, right? So the best way to do this is actually go inside of our view holder, because remember, view holder is what is holding the entire view, which is in this case, our contact row. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it to implement our OnClick listener as such. The moment we do that, of course, we're going to have issues because we have to implement the OnClick method. Notice the same thing that we've done before. So click OK. And at the bottom here, you see now we have this OnClick method here, which of course we're passing the view. So nothing new here. But remember that in order for our view to be seen or to receive those clicks, right? So this is our view, this whole thing here, okay? We need to do what? Well, we will have to register it. So what is our view in this case? Well, our view is, of course, is this item view here. That's why we're going through it to get the name and the phone number. So I can come here and say item view dot set OnClick listener like that and pass this being our view holder class here, because that is indeed the one that implements our view OnClick listener. So we are saying now this item view, which is all these views here, is going to respond to OnClick listeners. Where is it going to respond? It's going to be responding here. So at this point here, if I say log d like that and pass in say v.get ID like this, okay, we're going to get an ID of our view that has been clicked. In this case here, I'm going to say clicked just to see. Save this and rerun real quick. Let's open our logcat and we want to look at clicked. Of course, there's nothing there yet because we haven't clicked on anything. So click here and voila, you can see -1. Click there, -1. Click there, -1. Very good. Now, the reason why it's giving just the ID -1 is because he doesn't really know how to get the ID at this point. We'll show you how to actually get the correct ID. Because remember, each ID, it's going to be what? In this case, it's going to be the index of each object. How do we get that? Well, the beauty here is that because we're inside of this view holder, recycle view, there's few methods that we can invoke to get the position. So there's such methods such as get adapter position. So what is this adapter position? Well, the adapter position is going to be the position of each item that we are showing. So this is going to be position 0. This whole thing is going to be position 1. This third one is going to be position 2 and so forth. Because remember, all of these are inside of an array list or an array, which means everything starts from 0, right? So let's capture that and say get adapter position, and we're going to put that into a variable. We know that returns an int, so I'm going to say int position like that is equal to get adapter position. Now we have this position, which, if you remember correctly, it's pretty much the same as this position here that's been passed inside of our onBind view holder, which we use to get the correct object. So that's what we're going to be doing here next. So at this point here, if I come here and say pass just position as such and refresh this, we should be able hopefully to see in our logcat here, when we click this first one here, says 0. So we're getting the correct positions at this point here. Let's probably put to the left. All right, look at that. Now the third one is going to be 1 or 2, I should say. And let's see, the last one is going to be 16. All right, so now we're able to get the correct position. Now, this is important. Why? Because let's say if we want to get the text view or whatever it's inside of our card view here, it's very important to know which position we're at, right? Because otherwise we may end up getting Gemma when we click on Litos or get Silo when we click on Sarai. So that is not helpful. So these positions are very important because we are going to be able to identify the correct row. So now that we have our position here, we can do the same thing what we did with our contact list here at the top on bind view, right? We can instantiate a new contact object and then get that information, right? So I can come down here and say contact again is equal to contact list dot get and pass the position as such, and I can go ahead and say dot get, for instance, name right away like that. We're gonna have issues here because that is a string type. Let me just divide this all up. Let's just do the instantiation there, And then I can just come down here and say contact.get name. Okay, so now we're gonna be getting the name of the contact that we've clicked. All right, there we go. We should see James. Click. There is James. Let's see this one here. We should see Helena or Helena. Look at that. Karimo, Rogelio, Rashwan, and there we go. Very good. So we are able to get information for our items. Now, the other thing we can do here, for instance, at this point here, we made it possible to make this whole view be clickable. So we can click anywhere and then it will respond. That's totally fine. What if we want to make sure that, for instance, this button here, right, this icon here, when that is clicked, something else happens? Because at this point, if you click there, of course, it's going to show whatever we clicked as a Rashwan in this case here, because really what happened is that this is inside of this bigger view, so it's going to include everything, right? So if we want to be particular, meaning we want to fetch just one item, we can do the same thing, right? Because at this point here, when we said item set on click listener this, I can get rid of that for now. And at this point here, I'm going to create, say, public. It was an image view, so I'm going to create that image view, right? Because this was indeed an image view to the right here. In fact, let me go ahead and give an ID. I'm going to call this icon button so we can reference it. So I can come here and call this icon button like that. Very good. And then what I can do, instantiate it, of course, so icon button. Go through item view that find view by ID r.id.icon button.that. Okay, so now I can say, for instance, icon button that set on click listener and pass this. Look what's going to happen. At this point here, everything could be the same as it is right now, but now the on click listener is just going to be on the icon button. I'm going to save this. Quick run here. Look what's going to happen. All right. Look, I click anywhere else, nothing happens. If I click on the button, James is working. I come to the third one here, click on the button, Helena is working, click on the button, and so forth. I can come up here still, make sure that the item view like that is still click listener. I'm going to save this, and I can come down here and make sure, just like we do with different kind of buttons, right? I'm going to say switch and v.getID like that. I say case, so I can say here r.id.what. I want the icon view. If that is clicked, I'm going to say break, and then here I'm going to go ahead and say log d. In fact, I'm going to copy what we have, this log here. Copy here and paste it all in here. In this case, it's going to be icon clicked. Let's see what's going to happen. I'm going to save this and run. All right, so I'm going to click on the button, clicked and showed the phone number, but also went ahead and ran and showed, of course, what we have here, click the button. So icon clicked and clicked James. Now this is working this way because, as you see here at the top, we also made sure that the whole item view, which means everything, the whole card, is also registered. So when you click on anything inside of this card, of course, it's going to go ahead and fire the other on click, which shows James there. So these are the little things that I wanted to make you aware of as we learn about Recycle View and how to connect things ourselves. And of course, as we did this, we could have also gotten, for instance, let's say if we want to make sure that the contact name was clicked, something happens and so forth. So the same thing we were able to do in this case with our icon buttons, we could have done the same thing with any of these widgets here. Okay, so go ahead and play around with this concept. And what I want you to do before you go to the next video is figure out how do we then, when something is clicked, let's say the whole item is clicked or the whole row is clicked. How about trying to figure out how to take this user to a new activity, right? And as you take the user to a new activity, I want you to also pass in the name as well as the phone number of the row that you clicked. I'm very confident that you can get this done, so go ahead and do that before you do the next lesson. Good luck.